Okay, today I'm going to react to the Nick Shirley video that he released about a month ago. It's about the welfare fraud in Minnesota. Some of the fraudsters are finally being indicted, and everybody's innocent, so proving guilty in court of law. I just want to make sure I say that. But they are finally being indicted. They are finally being held accountable. And he released this about a month ago, but I have not reacted to it. This is not completely blind. I've seen a little bit of it because I've done several takes of this video. It's just been like complete chaos, but I've done several takes of this video, so I have seen a little bit of it, but I'm going to react to the whole thing all at once now. So here we go.
Today is a big day. We're here in Minnesota, back with the legend David. Today's a big day because today here in Minnesota, over 10 people are being charged for fraud that they have committed here inside the state of Minnesota. And a few of these people are being charged with autism and daycare, childcare fraud. Over $40 million in autism fraud. And one of the main ladies in the video that me and David made, she has been caught with over $4 million. Her last year her daycare received $3.67 million, and now she has been criminally charged for child care fraud here inside the state of Minnesota. And this is some of the highest amount of fraud that's ever been charged inside of this district. This is Ilhan Omar's district here in Minnesota. And on top of that, they're bringing out 2 new cases of fraud that have actually never been criminally charged inside of the Medicare programs here inside of Minnesota. This is a big deal.
That's
David,
what we like to see.
What does this say?
Huge.
This is phenomenal to see the progression that things are happening after the release of our videos. And that woman who was criminally charged, by the way, she was caught at the airport with a one-way ticket to London. She was getting out of Dodge and they stopped her. And now she's been charged not only with defeating our future fraud, but she's the first person charged with child care fraud. It's a big deal.
This is a big deal. And they're going to be doing these press conferences right now. We're going to be breaking it all down. We're going to be interviewing people like Dr. Oz and also A.G. Collins, who's actually the head of the Fraud Task Force. He's the Attorney General of the Fraud Task Force. So we're going to be interviewing him as well. And right now, because of the celebration that's taking place, the lawyers are leering the hard way. We're doing 25% off the entire site. So you can go to antifraudclub.com and use code LEERING and you're going to get 25% off. And now let's see what the people have to say. Look at all the press. Look at them. Look at them. Look at all these fools that never actually reported on the fraud that's taking place. So here they are. And we even have our op CNN right there. She investigated me versus investigating the fraudsters. In fact, her investigation on fraud was to call the fraudsters and say, hey, are you guys committing fraud? And obviously they said no, but we know that it was different because we did the real work.
We're from CNN. Can we talk to you? This is MAGA YouTuber Nick Shirley. Back at a daycare in Minnesota, he alleged was a fraudulent facility in a now viral video. How do you know that all the allegations that you're making are true?
How do I know that they're true? Well, we showed you guys what was happening, and then you guys can go ahead and make your own analysis.
We're coming, so we can make our own analysis. Are you 100% sure you're true?
Yeah, I am 100% sure I'm true.
CNN is looking into Shirley's claims.
Hi, my name's Whitney Wild. I'm a correspondent for CNN.
We reached out to several of the daycares featured in the now viral video. Only one daycare facility answered and said they are a legitimate business.
And now it's spread throughout the entire country, not just the U.S. We've heard from people from New Zealand, Australia, Sweden, Japan, everywhere. They're finding the same sorts of fraud.
These 2 people right here, we did the dirty work that all these people are supposed to do, but they didn't.
We did it.
Now let's see what they have to say.
Today, we are announcing criminal charges against 15 defendants in Minnesota for fraud schemes that targeted over $90 million in taxpayer dollars. Our cases today involve 7 different state-managed Medicaid programs that have been systematically pilfered by fraudsters who treated Minnesota-run programs as their personal piggy bank. One defendant is charged with defrauding the Integrated Community Supports Medicaid program. One patient was supposed to be receiving 24-hour care through this program, but he was actually being serviced by a fraudster and received no services.
Okay, we'll get back to the video in a minute, but first I just want to explain what home and community-based services are and what they do for people. Home and community-based services are exactly what they sound like. They allow you to live in your home in the community instead of in institutions. So it's everything from having an aide come out to you, having transportation to and from doctor's appointments, anything that allows you to live in your own home. So allegedly what this person was doing is this man needed an aide to come out to his home. So the aide allegedly fraudulently billed hours that he never worked, and the man didn't get any services that he was supposed to be getting from this aide. And then the man died, and the aide allegedly billed the day before he died. And the man he was supposed to be helping allegedly wasn't getting any services. Okay, so
before we get back to the conversation, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. On whatever podcast app you're listening on right now, just hit the subscribe or follow button, and if there's a bell icon, tap that too so you get notified when new episodes drop. You can also subscribe to my Substack newsletter for updates about important disability policy at both the state and federal levels, and deeper dives into the topics we talk about on the show at wheelwithit.com/Substack. And if you want to follow both me and the podcast on social media, you can find all the links in one place at wheelwithit.com/followers. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Now, back to
this patient was later found dead. Meanwhile, the architect of this fraud scheme was billing Medicaid as if he was providing care to this patient. The defendant even submitted a claim of over $400 for services he never provided the day before this man died.
Today's arrests represent the largest autism fraud bust in American history.
So they just went in and they announced all the fraud cases. For instance, this is the biggest autism fraud that's ever been exposed in Minnesota, and I think potentially in the country, if I heard correctly. So right here, Robert Kennedy's showing this graph. 2020, it was all normal, and underneath the Biden administration, the numbers just went through the roof, like exponentially, without a need. All fraud. All right, David, so they just had the largest autism fraud bust in American history, Future Learning Center, where they received $3.67 million. She's now been charged. What's your overall thoughts on what you just heard?
So this is the beginning. And like I've always contended, when the dust settles on this fraud in Minnesota is going to be $80 billion going back to about 1988. And the speed with which these investigations are occurring is unprecedented. I'm shocked at how quickly they're making these arrests, and they're going to find the money, and the fraudsters are running scared.
There was literally a fraudster who they went to go arrest this morning who jumped out of a 4-story building to escape.
Yeah, it looked like he broke his ankle or his leg because he was hobbling. So, and that's exactly what he deserves.
Mohammed Omar. Last name was Omar. What a coincidence.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so first of all, video pause one more time. The speed at which these investigations are moving, better than I could have ever dreamed of. It's obvious that Donald Trump doesn't sleep, or the Trump administration doesn't sleep, because they're moving about 5 times faster than I thought they would, which is amazing because we've been waiting for reform for over 35 years. And in my opinion, and you're welcome to disagree with me, the first step to reform is cutting all the waste, fraud, and abuse so we have money to actually fund the reforms. And if you want to see what phase 2 of the reform looks like, you can go to welfarereformnow.com. Again, that's welfarereformnow.com. Secondly, you're willing to jump out of a 4-story window to avoid getting caught with fraudulent Medicaid. How crazy is that? These people will go to the ends of the earth not to get caught. But yes, you did deserve to break your way because you did stupid things and broke the law. That's what the leaders are learning the hard way. Let's just say that.
What a coincidence.
So Dr. Oz, we just had the press conference. The largest autism fraud in America history took place here inside of Minnesota. And there's a bunch of other fraud as well. One of the leaders as well was charged as well. What does this say about how the fraud was able to happen, and then what you guys are doing now to make sure that it does not continue to happen?
When you have fraud of this magnitude, you can't play man-to-man. You need zone defense, which means an all-of-government approach. So when President Trump said, we're creating a White House anti-fraud task force, and he puts the vice president in charge of it, everybody listens. So if I get called and I've got a little data that shows that there's something fishy going on with autism billing because it's gone from a few million to $400 million, which literally happened, I noticed that, but I got to do something with it. So I can call, for example, Department of Justice or the FBI or the Office of Inspector General, and I can get folks boots on the ground to go start knocking on doors like you did, by the way. You're basically deputized because you're identifying clues that this was legitimate fraud happening, not just some embarrassing numbers. And then you have Treasury involved because they can do forensic accounting and say, you know what, these lowlifes are stealing money. Now, they're bad, but what about the folks above them? The people who create the shell companies that hide the funds, they take it overseas, fund terrorist organizations. Who knows? You don't actually know the answer to these questions because you don't know where the money's going. But people who are sophisticated enough to defraud this government are often not from America. They're often foreign criminal organizations or even foreign governments. And that's why beginning to identify how the fraud happens is so important to us, because these guys, they've corrupted the system. They know how to take money out of the U.S. healthcare programs out there. We cannot, as Americans who love these programs and our fellow Americans, let them be hurt by this.
How essential are these programs actually? Because think about how much money was gone to fraudsters. How did it go on for so long where people were able to steal, or where the budgets were able to go up by 1,000% when the enrollments didn't even go up? I know these are very important, but how was that happening where there was these huge increases in the budgets and where these fraudsters were literally just looting?
Nick, in our culture, when I look you in the eyes and I tell you I'm going to do something, you expect me to do it, and I hold you accountable as well. That's just who we are. During COVID, two major things happened. First, the government said, we're not going to keep track for a while because there's a national emergency, but that taught people they could steal. And then we began to get politically correct about the things we're saying, which is specifically what happened here in Minnesota, which I heard from Faye, a whistleblower Democrat serving in the Department of Health here, who said, I was pointing out that there were problems happening. And not only were they not listening to me, they were scared. They didn't want to be accused as being racist. And then once people realized they couldn't speak about the truth, then everything gets hidden.
This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy.
And so we witnessed a confluence of catastrophes that has allowed overall Medicaid spending in the whole country to go up by 50% in the last 5-6 years. And we're seeing a fourfold increase in things like pharmaceutical spending. Again, those are programs you can defraud more readily. And I guess, let me give you a couple numbers, because I think this will actually, at some point, it gets almost entertaining that it could get this bad. 1/3 of all hospices in the entire country are in Los Angeles. Again, how many people are dying in LA? Hospices where you go to pass away. They've defrauded that program. In New York State, the number one job in the entire state is now being a personal care service worker, which is, again, the core of your question. These are jobs your family would do for you normally, like carrying the groceries upstairs or driving you to a doctor's office or giving you a place to stay if you're down and out. Now we're just paying people to do that. So it's a jobs program. And so you begin to, as an American, question who was keeping track. And let me just answer that question for you real quick. My agency, who was in charge of at least doing the early...
Okay, quick pause to offer a slight commentary on what Dr. Fraudster said. I would be fine with people other than the family doing personal care attendant stuff, because some people with disabilities want to live on their own. They just want to. So they move to a facility that, like I'm at, that lets you live in your own apartment but has caregivers that work here. Or they have elderly family members that physically can't do it, or they don't have good relationships with their family at all and just need to get the hell out of their house. And so I would be fine with somebody outside of the family doing it, provided that they actually did it. It's that they didn't provide. That's the biggest problem here. Okay, back to the video.
Warning, just looking at the numbers, was basically told, don't go after these bad guys. You got more important things to do. You got to just sign more people up for these programs. And so the total number of people involved in Medicaid fraud in our program integrity unit, 6 people. Just think of that. For the entire almost $1 trillion program, allocating money to all these programs, some of which are suspect, as you point out, there are 6 people in charge of it. That's not an accident. That's effectively, it's either malevolently ignoring reality, or you just didn't care.
And for instance, a lot of this fraud, like you said there.
Okay, let's see if I can count how many caseworkers I have, not just for my Medicaid, but for my various benefits. Okay, I have a caseworker for my Medicaid waiver. That's the part of Medicaid that gives people with disabilities access to extra services like personal care attendants, equipment funding, things like that. And so I have her. Then I have my regular Medicaid caseworker who I never see because I don't need her because I mainly rely on the waiver, but you have to qualify for regular Medicaid to qualify for a waiver. So I have her. That's two. Then I have my SNAP caseworker because you have to have one of those if you qualify for SNAP benefits. I don't call her unless I have a problem with my SNAP benefits, which I haven't yet. So that's three. You have, let me see, what else do I have? I'm trying to think. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. But that's three. That's half of who's running the entire Medicaid fraud unit. And that's just for one person. And they expect 6 people to oversee a $1 trillion program? No, I don't think so. That's impossible.
Aren't even from the United States. The Chinese mafia in New York City, the Russians in California, the Armenians as well. Here you had the Somalians in Minnesota. And we have David here with us. And David, how did you see this fraud? Because if it wasn't for you, a lot of this stuff would not be happening. If it wasn't for you noticing that there's no children at the daycare, how did you notice the involvement of, for instance, the Somali population come in and loot and steal from Americans?
I started to see this prevalence of these childcare facilities around my office, and they're always in these dark, dingy buildings. And I said, who's running all these childcare? Why do we need all these childcare facilities? So that's what started me looking into what's going on here, how many kids are going there. And so I'd go early in the morning, no kids. I'd go in the afternoon, no kids, no footprints in the snow. So when I started looking at the ownership of the childcare facilities, I said, they're all Somali. And so then I said, I'm seeing all these vans driving around and it's a Somali driver and there's never any passengers. So I started looking at that. And then I realized it was autism. And that's why I depicted it as a wheel of fraud with the non-emergency medical transportation as a hub, and then childcare is a fraud, autism's a fraud, a spoke of fraud on the wheel. And I realized this thing was so gigantic, it was like trying to wrestle a greased hippo. And I knew it wouldn't work if I tried to tackle the whole thing. So I had to pick a pressure point, and that pressure point was childcare, because I knew people were going to be pissed when they saw what was going on with childcare. And then we moved into the non-emergency medical transportation, and you can see the results now. And it spawned not just a nationwide, but a worldwide investigation by people like us into fraud.
And do you think it's safe to say that the local government, Tim Walz, Ilhan Omar, Keith Ellison, they were complicit in allowing specifically the Somali population go through and commit this fraud because they knew they could then call out people for being a racist or Islamophobic?
Yes.
There's no question there was a culture, certainly within the department in charge of these programs, that stymied open talk. You were intimidated if you said anything that was even a little bit deemed as politically incorrect. And the specific issue around racism, which I, again, heard from Faye, was the biggest insult that you could ever make is to call someone a racist. And I think the biggest insult is that you're a liar and a cheat, and you're taking advantage of your fellow men and trying to hurt them. And the fact that they lost their priorities on these issues, to me, is very concerning. It's one of the reasons that we've been actively looking at how we can investigate these programs more effectively. And to protect the federal taxpayer, we've had to look at what's been submitted to us and defer in this state, in Minnesota, defer $350 million. But in California, which might be the varsity team, the amount of problems we saw there forced us to the kinds of numbers we're talking about. Can I just give you an affordability nexus here, just to put in everyone's mind? Because a lot of people watching now, I hope, are working their tails off, but the belief that one day when they get to age 65, they could retire and enjoy the bountiful benefits of Medicare. A beautiful safety net system, crown jewel of our program that will help you through all your healthcare expenses when you're getting to the retirement age. The life expectancy of that program is so short now that a lot of people your age, Nick, don't think it's going to be there for them. Do you have an opinion? Do you think Medicare will be there for you?
At this rate, no. If we continue to get looted.
Not
unless you do something about it, we're not going to have it.
I'm going to make this commitment because I've run these numbers. If we can take out the fraud from Medicare, just the Medicare, not the whole $100 billion of fraud we think exists, but just the Medicare, we will double the life expectancy of the Medicare Trust Fund. That's the part of your paycheck that you pay every month.
So just to clear what he's saying, Medicaid and Medicare are two different things. Medicare is for the elderly and the disabled who have a certain number of work credits. Medicaid is for just anybody that needs help paying their medical bills and people that need extra services that have disabilities and stuff like I do. So he's saying if we get rid of half the fraud in the Medicare part of this alone, we double the life expectancy of the Medicare program. That is crazy that there's that much fraud. Okay.
Every week towards making sure that you have Medicare coverage for the country, we will double the life expectancy of that. So you'll have it, your kids will have it, and hopefully their kids will have it. And we don't have to charge you extra tax. We don't have to go after anyone's home. We don't have to knock out people from playing in the game of life in America. We just have to take the fraud out. That's our job. It's our duty. It's our responsibility.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Oz. Now we're going to talk with Attorney McDonald about specifically what they found here in Minnesota. Thank you very much.
God bless you.
The fraud here in Minnesota has been going on for so long, for so many years, and today, finally, these fraudsters have been held accountable. What exactly did you guys get these fraudsters on?
Today is we've announced charges against 15 fraudsters here in Minnesota who were defrauding 7 different Medicaid programs and also childcare funding program here in the state of Minnesota. There's a range of charges for these defendants, including healthcare fraud, conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud, wire fraud, and other fraud charges. Most of these charges, they'll carry maximum sentences of 5 years up to 20 years. And as we heard earlier today, the architect of the Feeding Our Futures case was sentenced this morning for her role in defrauding USDA. She was sentenced to 41 years in ringleader for that scheme.
And so there's 50 people charged, a few arrests. One man jumped out of a 4-story building.
Yeah.
Last name's Omar. Don't know if that's coincidence or not with Ilhan, but he jumped out of a 4-story building. And now, can you get into specifics of, we know there's autism fraud, we know there's a childcare fraud.
Yeah.
What was the other fraud that these people are committing?
The fraud today was, it did involve autism. It involved in-home health services and also the housing stable programs. So that involved helping place homeless into homes. The core of it involves home health services for the elderly or the disabled. And so you have folks who will start a business to then be capable of billing Medicaid. They have to go out, they have to actually find real people. They got to find real patients who actually need these services. They get them on their books, and then they fail to give them the actual services. But what do? They still send Medicaid the bill. And that's a scheme that we've seen here. We see it replicated across the country. We also brought charges in a childcare center in relation to a childcare center today. And that's also a major focus of ours is the home health care programs, the food programs, the daycare programs, and then really everything else. But we see common themes of billing for services never provided, billing for patients that were never patients, or billing for children that were never children under the care of a particular daycare outfit.
I think something that's powerful about today is you're seeing actual synergy between a citizen like myself who went and exposed the fraud and then the government coming in and stepping in. Because I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I can only do so much. I'm just watching the news. What can I actually do? But you can actually go out and make a difference, and then the government can actually go in and do the prosecution. I had no idea when I went and made that video that all this would happen, but the government was watching because it is our tax dollars I was getting stolen. And then I think there's a beautiful synergy happening right now inside the country, and I hope this gives people more hope to actually go out and make a difference inside their communities and be able to have that trust that, okay, if we see something, if we see a random daycare with no children, let's say something, and now let's have that faith that our government will go in and do the prosecution and go do the investigation as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm an assistant attorney general, but I'm just a guy like you. I watched your videos with my kids, and they thought they were great.
Yeah.
And so to really solve this problem, it requires everybody to come together and say, enough is enough. And so your work, the work of the agents, the prosecutors, everyone, this should not be a controversial issue, that it's something that we need to solve. It really shouldn't be. So I encourage and I commend you for doing this work and for highlighting certain things. And I invite anyone else to also jump into the game there and help us figure out what fraud is occurring and then we could run with investigating it and trying to bring it to fruition. Because every case requires documents, it requires witnesses, it requires live bodies to actually testify to what has happened here, whether something happened or didn't happen. We rely on people in the community to be those voices for us at trial, for instance. We need everybody to be reporting what they see so that we can try our best to root out this fraud and do it better than we've done it.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to realize that we don't work for you, you work for us.
We do.
And it's our responsibility to go out and actually make a difference and then have you guys do the work for us. And I think that's what we're seeing. I hope this encourages other people to realize that and see that you can make a difference inside of your own community.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, from my perspective, your words about us working for you, that's exactly what we are. We are public servants. Who do we work for? We work for the public. We don't work for us. We don't work for our own egos or our own desires. We want earnestly to be able to do what's right for the American people and to restore hope, restore joy for victims of fraud. And the justice system, justice is such a beautiful word if done right. And it's an honor for me to be in this role, to be able to step into this seat and to really work hard for the American people. It's an honor for me to sit in this seat. I hear from all kinds of people who are so disturbed by the fraud, and I'm at the front of the line. I feel the exact same way. And we have a historic opportunity to do something about it. And I can guarantee you I will do my absolute best shot to do something about it.
And your last message to all the fraudsters.
Yeah, my message to the fraudsters, I said it earlier today. Eat, drink, and be merry today, because your days of frolicking and freedom are coming to an end. We're going to do everything that we can to find you. And when we find you, we will prosecute you. And when we prosecute you, we will seek to claw back and extract every penny that you took from the American people. That is our goal. That is our vision. So if you're hearing this, you should run and you should hide, because we are going to do everything we can to unmask you and to prosecute you and to bring you to justice.
So maybe jump off a 4-story building, but they're still going to find you. Thank you very much. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
Okay, that was crazy. That is awesome that these investigations are moving forward at the speed that they are. Again, if you want to find out more about our fight to reform welfare, you can go to welfarereformnow.com. You can also follow the official Welfare Fraud Task Force from the White House on Twitter. We'll put it in the show notes. And we will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you get notified when we upload new episodes. Leave a comment and let us know what you think. Also, give this video a thumbs up. Remember to follow our guests and the show on social media using the links in the description. We'll see you next time.